You see, the tragedy is not that people are weak or lost or even broken. The true tragedy is that most never realize they were never ordinary to begin with. We live in a world that trains us to shrink, to fit in, to color inside the lines of what is acceptable, predictable, safe. And yet there is something within you subtle, but undeniable, that refuses to settle. A quiet, sacred unrest. A feeling that this cannot be all there is. Now understand, this God rarely announces when he is taking someone to the next level. He doesn't send emails or write it in the sky. No, his work is far more mysterious, hidden in the fabric of your daily life. In your restlessness, in your isolation, in doors that close before you're ready, and in a divine hunger for something more. You are not being punished. You are being called. And in this moment I invite you to lean in, because what you are going through may not be an end, but the unmistakable beginning of the extraordinary. Most people, when they wake up in the morning, do not imagine themselves as part of something divine. They don't feel cosmic or chosen or significant. Instead, they think about the alarm clock, the bills to pay, the commute, the obligations of the day. They consider themselves ordinary, and not just in the modest sense, but in the resigned sense. As if they have quietly accepted that their life is meant to be small, uneventful, and unremarkable. But what is this ordinary that we so easily accept? It's a story we tell ourselves, a frame we place around experience. It's not that life is actually mundane. It's that we have been trained to look at it through dull eyes. And we call this realism or being practical. But what if I told you that your ordinary is an illusion, that the very idea of an ordinary person is a contradiction? Because nothing God creates is average. Nothing infinite can produce something finite. You, in your essence, were never meant to be ordinary. You were only taught to believe it. You were born into a divine pattern, a cosmic symphony that is forever unfolding. And somewhere along the way, the world told you to stop listening to it. It told you to shrink, to behave, to play a role. And so you learned how to blend in. You learned how to mimic the rhythm of the crowd and ignore the deeper beat that called from within. And yet, despite all of that conditioning, something in you remained awake, even if just barely. A flicker, a whisper, a sense that perhaps there is more, that life isn't just a straight line from birth to death, but a spiral, an upward call. And when you feel that discontent, that stirring that won't go away, that is not your ego. That is the soul remembering. Because when God begins to shift you from ordinary to extraordinary, he doesn't first change your surroundings. He changes your perception. He alters your view. He allows you to see differently. And in that shift, what once seemed normal begins to feel unnatural. What once felt like home begins to feel too small. And you might even panic, because what you called comfort begins to decay. But hear me, this is not a crisis. This is transformation. You are not being torn apart. You are being awakened. Think of the caterpillar. It doesn't suddenly grow wings while remaining itself. It dissolves. It enters a state of chaos. Everything it once knew, its shape, its form, its identity, melts away. And we, looking from the outside, call it beautiful. But if the caterpillar could speak in the midst of its cocoon, it would likely say it felt like dying. It would not call itself extraordinary. But it is, not because it became something more, but because it remembered what it always was. And this is the mistake many make. They think the extraordinary is somewhere out there, some distant future version of themselves, improved and polished and celebrated. But the truth is much simpler. The extraordinary is what remains when all the false layers fall away. When you stop pretending, when you stop performing, when you stop accepting the lies you were taught about your worth. And yet, God is patient. He waits. He does not force. But he will allow certain storms to come, not to punish you, but to wake you. He will shake the ground beneath the identity you built on shallow soil, not to hurt you, but to invite you deeper. And when that invitation comes, it will not feel like a royal summons. It will feel like losing your grip, like losing friends, like walking away from familiar places and habits. But it is all a part of the divine unraveling, the falling away of the ordinary. Some people will not understand. They will say, "You've changed. and they'll be right. Because when God elevates you, when He begins to take you to the next level, you cannot stay who you were. The shell must crack. The old wineskin must break, and if you resist it, you'll feel stuck, you'll feel anxious. You'll feel like everything is going wrong, when in truth everything is being set right. You see, the ordinary is not your enemy. It was your training ground. It was the womb that held you while you were being formed. But now it's time to be born, and birth is never gentle. It comes with pressure, with pushing, with the sense that something too big is trying to come through something too small. But isn't that exactly what you feel sometimes? Like your soul has outgrown your surroundings. That is not by accident. That is divine timing. So if you feel restless, if you find yourself questioning, aching, searching, don't run from it. Don't numb it. That is the sound of heaven knocking. That is the sacred invitation into your extraordinary self. And no, it won't be glamorous at first. It might be lonely. It might be misunderstood. But every butterfly was once considered a worm. Remember, you were never meant to remain who the world told you to be. You were never meant to hide behind the mask of just getting by. You are here to awaken, to rise, to become. Not someone different, but someone true. And so, the question is not whether God is calling you. The question is, will you answer the call that's already been placed within you? We often think that when God is about to do something significant in our lives, it will come with fireworks, with clarity, with a trumpet in the sky. We imagine a divine interruption, something unmistakable, a dramatic announcement. But the truth is, God's work often begins in the quiet, in the places we least expect, hidden within the ordinary rhythm of our lives. And if we're not paying attention, we'll miss the signs. Because when God is preparing to take you to the next level, it doesn't always look like elevation. It often looks like disruption. You see, everything in the universe moves in rhythm. The tides rise and fall. The moon waxes and wanes. The seasons shift in perfect time. There's a divine rhythm to all of it, and your life is no different. God moves in seasons, not in moments. And when a new season is approaching, the shift rarely starts on the outside. It begins internally, with a sense of unease, a whisper of change, a gentle tug at your soul that something is about to end or begin. But because we are trained to value certainty and clarity, we often miss the rhythm. We label divine transitions as confusion, delay, or failure. We think we've done something wrong when, in truth, we're just being moved. You might feel like the things that once made sense no longer do. You might look around and feel strangely detached from the life you once loved. But this is not chaos, it's choreography. God rarely shouts. He whispers through circumstances. He doesn't barge in, he invites. And that invitation often comes disguised as discomfort, as restlessness, as a door closing you thought would always stay open. You may not realize it at first, but what you're experiencing is the beginning of a divine rhythm shifting in your favor. And because the next level requires a different version of you, the old version must first be dismantled. This dismantling isn't punishment. It's not rejection. It's alignment. Because what cannot go with you into the next season must first be removed from you in this one. God will never promote a mask. He will not elevate what you've pretended to be. He's too loving for that. Instead, He strips away everything false until only what is real remains. And so, when you start to feel like your world is coming apart, remember, it might be coming together at a higher level, but the rhythm is subtle. It's like a change in the wind. You can't quite explain it, but something within you knows I'm not the same. I don't see things the same way. I don't respond the way I used to. My heart is shifting. My priorities are changing. I'm becoming more sensitive to truth, more resistant to noise, more drawn to solitude, to silence, to God. That is the rhythm of transition. That is God moving you without saying a word. And often, when this shift begins, you will feel alone. Because not everyone around you will recognize the season you're entering. Some will try to hold you to the rhythm you used to move in. They'll say you're distant, that you've changed, and they'll be right. You're no longer in sync with where you've been. You're being tuned to a higher frequency, one that calls you into purpose, into alignment, into something greater than what you've settled for. The rhythm of transition is not linear. It doesn't follow the path you expect. It bends time, stretches patience, and challenges everything you thought you knew. Because the next level is not simply about elevation. It's about transformation. And transformation requires surrender. You must learn to move with the rhythm of God, to flow rather than force. And this is the most difficult part for most people, because we've been taught to control, to plan, to demand certainty. But divine timing doesn't follow the clock. It follows growth. And God will not elevate you a moment too early or a moment too late. He moves with precision. And so, if it hasn't happened yet, it's not because He's forgotten you. It's because the rhythm hasn't reached its crescendo. You're still being formed, still being radied, still being stretched. And when the time comes, what was once unclear will make perfect sense. Until then, you must learn to trust the silence. Trust the pauses. Trust the doors that don't open and the ones that close without warning. Trust the friendships that fade and the passions that shift. All of it is part of the rhythm. None of it is random. And though it may seem like nothing is happening, everything is happening beneath the surface. Like seeds beneath the soil, transformation is taking place long before anything blooms. So the question is not whether God is moving in your life. He is. The question is, are you willing to tune your soul to His rhythm? Can you feel the subtle pulse of His timing guiding you away from what is familiar into what is divine? Are you sensitive enough to know that when the world says you're standing still, heaven is actually advancing your soul? Because the next level won't arrive with fanfare. It will arrive quietly, wrapped in strange timing, disguised as disruption. And only those who know the rhythm will recognize the invitation. There comes a moment in every person's journey when what once felt satisfying begins to feel empty. Not because something is wrong, but because something deeper is beginning to awaken. You may find yourself looking at your life, your routines, your job, even your relationships, and wondering, is this all there is? The things that used to excite you now feel shallow. What once felt like success now feels like a cage. And you might think something has gone wrong. But in reality, something has gone right. That discomfort is not a problem to fix. It's a signal to follow. This is one of the clearest signs that God is taking you to the next level. A divine discontent that begins to rise up inside of you. It's not depression. It's not boredom. It's a holy discomfort, a sacred dissatisfaction that whispers, you were made for more. Not more in terms of possessions or praise, but more in terms of purpose. More alignment, more truth, more depth, more of what actually matters. And what's so subtle, and even dangerous, about this moment is that everything around you may still look good. Life might appear stable on the outside. You might be praised for your accomplishments, admired for your talent, and even told how blessed you are. But inside you feel a growing emptiness. You're no longer energized by the things that once motivated you. You find yourself withdrawing, questioning, searching, but for what you can't quite explain. This internal disruption is divine. It is how God begins the process of elevation, not with applause, but with a subtle tearing away from what is no longer aligned. When God begins to call you higher, He must first create space for the calling to grow. And that space is made by loosening your attachment to comfort. Comfort, while pleasant, is not the goal of a life aligned with divine purpose. Growth is, and growth requires movement. Movement requires discomfort. And so, the moment you begin to feel that inner unease, that quiet frustration with your current level, it's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that your current life has become too small for the person you're becoming. The truth is, many people miss their calling, not because they lack talent, or faith, or opportunity, but because they resist the discomfort that comes before the breakthrough. They numb it, they ignore it, they label it as just a bad mood or burnout, but it's deeper than that. Burnout is often a symptom of a deeper misalignment, of pouring your energy into something your spirit has outgrown. You see, we were not created to live forever in one stage. Just as a seed is meant to become a tree, you are meant to evolve. And yet, unlike the seed, you have a choice. You can resist the growth. You can stay buried in the soil of comfort. But eventually, the seed will rot if it refuses to break open. And so, God begins the breaking process with a gentle nudge, a subtle shift, a whisper that says, "There's more." And when we ignore the whisper, He turns up the volume. The things that once satisfied you begin to lose their flavor. The routines that once felt safe now feel suffocating. You may even begin to feel guilty about this change, as if you're being ungrateful. But let me be clear, this is not ingratitude. It's spiritual maturity. It's your soul recognizing that what used to be enough no longer serves the next stage of your assignment. And this discontent is not just emotional. It's directional. It begins to guide you. You'll start to feel pulled in new directions, drawn to new people, curious about things that never interested you before. Old desires will fade. New questions will rise. You'll start to feel a yearning, not just to succeed, but to align. Not just to do more, but to become more of who you truly are. But here's the challenge: the people around you might not understand this shift. They may see your discomfort and try to fix it. Why aren't you happy? They'll ask. You have so much going for you. And from the outside, they're not wrong. But this isn't about what's going on around you. It's about what's growing within you. You're being invited into a deeper level of purpose, one that requires leaving behind the version of you that was content to settle. And that's not easy, because the version of you that fit into your old life won't survive your next level. That version must be shed, and shedding is uncomfortable. It feels like loss, but it's actually a sacred release. The letting go of what no longer reflects your truth. This discontent is sacred. It is the tool God uses to wake you up. It is the divine whisper that tells you, you cannot stay here. And even if you try, you'll find that the grace for your current level begins to lift. What used to come easily now feels heavy. What used to bring peace now brings pressure. And that pressure isn't punishment, it's propulsion. It's meant to move you. You are not meant to live a life that just works. You are meant to live a life that breathes. A life that stretches you, calls you, ignites you. A life that feels aligned with who God created you to be. And when that life begins calling, it doesn't always knock gently. Sometimes it shakes everything you thought you needed until all that's left is what truly matters. So don't fear the discontent. Don't suppress it. Lean into it. Ask it what it's trying to show you. Let it guide you. Because on the other side of that holy discomfort is a version of you the world has not yet seen. A version of you that's not just functioning, but flourishing. God doesn't make you uncomfortable to punish you. He does it to awaken you.